Have you ever thought to yourself, why do we get cheated in life? Like something that goes through your mind and you're like, why do we actually get cheated in life? You know some things can be avoided. Story time. If you who live in Abuja, you might really understand what I'm about to say. So on Saturday, I went to the market to repair or fix my blender because it's bad and this is my first time doing it. So on getting to the market, I have a guy who help me out whenever I go to the market to buy bulk of things. So he uses his wheelbarrow to carry the things and I tip him, right? Nigerians, we know this. So on getting to the market, I asked my guy, I'm like, okay, where can I fix my blender, right? He took me to some of these Igbo guys that fix blender. By the way, mind you, I'm Igbo, and this video is not about tribe or anything. And so we got to their store. So he took me to this Igbo guy's store. And when I got there, there were other guys who were there. You know how Wusi Market is. Some of you who have been to Wusi Market and fixed your blender, or who has actually been to Wusi Market to do one or two. So I got there and, you know, I greeted them. I told them about the blender, the issues I was having with my blender. So I told them everything and they told me. So the guy was like, okay, that he's going to fix this blender with 2,500. So they were saying some things in Igbo, how how a customer of theirs, how they overcharged him for fixing something that was wrong in the blender. And this was probably an expatriate because they said it was a white dude and they overcharged him and all. So that actually made me, normally I don't usually pay attention to some of these things, but that made me to be extremely careful and watchful of what they were doing to my blender. They told me to fix my blender was that they were going to charge me that they were going to charge me a the guy said 2,000 naira. I was like, ah no, that 2,000 is too much. They said 2,500. I can remember he said 2,500. I told him 2,500 is a bit much. That I'm going to just give him 1,000. Yeah, that I was going to give him 1,000 to fix the blender. So he was like, okay, no problem. I'm going to. So obviously he argued with it and all, like, oh, 1,000 is not so good. At the end of the day, he accepted because after what I heard, girl, I was fully awake. I was fully awake. Like, so they asked me, "Are you Igbo?" And I was like, "No, I'm from Edo State." And the reason why I said I'm from Edo State, that was the only state that popped up my head, being that I schooled in Edo, and you know, so I schooled in Edo, and that was like the only state that really like came to my mind. Okay, I have to tell these people something, and I said I'm from Edo State. So mind you that these guys they were saying some funny things that it was too funny, you know, they were cracking jokes and I would have easily given in by laughing because I could hear them, but the jokes were so funny and I would have like easily given in on those their jokes, but I didn't. I still maintained my composure and pretending that I couldn't hear them, and that was a good thing that I did. Very good thing that I did. So I stayed there and they said they needed to change some things in the blender, that something happened and something led to another thing. You know how they behave. And I was like, sure, why not? Change it if it won't blend. And how much is it? They said it's 1.5. And I did argue because not like I know what they were up to, but I was being very careful because they said something about changing how did they say? They said something about changing a little bit of piece of stuff in the man's blender, which was worth 1,500, but they charged him 7,000. Remember that they said that. So when they told me it's 1,500, I was like, okay, no problem. I think they are being honest at this point, and they are being honest at this point. And I was like, okay, sure, no problem. Please go ahead and change this for me. Let's let's blend while I complete this story. So after that, I remember I told you guys that they already said something about charging this man so amount of money. So that's why I didn't argue about the 1,500 they charged me to change something on the blender. So they went to get it, and then I went to withdraw so I could pay them, right? And then there was something else that was missing in the blender. It's a long story. There was something else that was missing in the blender, and they, oh, my back hurts. So they told me about it. It's a rubber, a very tiny rubber thing. And they told me about it. I was like, yes, you guys should just, change it, because I needed to be done with all the changing things in that blender. So after they were done, like they finished up, so he didn't have the rubber stuff that he was meant to use to, tighten the blender. So he asked his neighbor, "Oh, do you have these?" He was asking him in Igbo. And the guy was like, "Yes, I have it." He was like, "Oh, my neighbor said he has it." And he was like, "Oh, bring it." And then he said that in English. And then he said in Igbo to this guy, he was like, "Charge, tell me how much is it in Igbo. Tell me," because they assume that I'm not Igbo. They assume that I'm not Igbo. He said, "Tell me how much is it in Igbo. Uh, don't just tell me the original price. Then I will tell her what I need to tell her." So that was what happened. And I was like, okay. And then I smiled, like I'm like in my mind, I'm like, okay, let's see who you are going to eat today. That was what I said. And then I was just looking at them. And then the guy told me, "Oh, the rubber is 1,005. Oh, like he told me. He said the rubber is 1,005. I was like, how can this, tiny rubber be 1,005 that I don't have 1,500, but I'm only going to pay him 300 naira?" You might be asking why I'm so mean, but these guys are the meanest set of people I have met in my life. And he was like, "Oh," and he was like, did I steal it? Why will you price me?" I'm like, "I'm not saying that you stole it. This is business, right? And I can price you. This is the amount I have to pay you. I can price you anything I wish to buy. This is what I have to pay you." And he said, that he can't, oh, that it's too small and all, that it should bring 1,000. Then he told his friend, the guy who is actually the person fixing my blender, that she know the price well. Oh. He was like, "Oh, tell her how much, tell her 1,000, and then we'll split the money." And I was there waiting for them. They were talking about all the trash they were going to do to me, talking about how they were going to charge extra and then split the money for my own money that I'm working for. Oh no, you can't do that to me. So one of them was like, "I know they charge this girl well, though. You guys should charge her. Like she looks rich, right? Charge her, charge her." And I'm like, "Yeah, hey, not while I'm still alive." And then they were just calling their prices. I told them no, that I'm going to get the rubber for 300 naira. And I'm not going to add anything or remove anything. Like that was the fine. And they were like, "Oh, return the rubber or return the item back to us." I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And then they finally fixed the ones I already paid for, and I gave him his workmanship. And I heard him complaining how he didn't have, like, much people for that day. So then after they gave me back my blender, so after they gave me back my blender, so I told them, I said, then I started speaking Igbo. I'm like, they were shocked. Like the The look on their faces, I would pay anything to see it again. They were shocked. They were really, really shocked. And they're like, "So you're Igbo?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And you guys have been so stupid not to realize that and thinking that everybody that comes to the market is not Igbo. And then you start off by speaking Igbo so that you can assume or say whatever you want to say. And then I told the man, and this person in question have his son was there with him, like, based on weekend, the guy came out to, accompany his dad to the market, to his shop. So the little boy was there. Obviously, he can speak Igbo. Obviously, he understands. So, so he said, "Oh, they were joking about the whole thing, that it wasn't something serious." I was like, "Sir, I don't care about what you're saying now because the damage is done. It's done, and there is nothing you can tell me that will make me see you as another kind of person." So I told him, I said, "See, you guys always complain about the government, how the government embezzled money, how they are not providing for its citizens, blah, blah, blah. And no one is actually doing better at their own position." So after that, I left. I dropped a piece of advice for him. I'm not saying that because I know he would not change, because this is something they've been doing for years. So back to the whole conversation of people not getting cheated. I would have gone there, pretended, or start speaking Igbo. Oh, my Igbo brothers. Oh, they are my Igbo brothers. Oh, start speaking Igbo for them. And then if their true intentions, I wouldn't have ever found out their true intentions. And they will use that to actually cheat me. And I will go home thinking, "Oh, I met some really cool guys. Oh, they are my customers and all," not knowing that I was actually cheated. So most things can actually be avoided if you keep your mouth shut. Most things can be avoided if you keep your mouth shut. It's not all the times that when you go somewhere you start yapping your gums, you want everybody in the room. There are people like that. I know someone who is like that. You go somewhere, you want all attention to be on you. Girl, get a fucking life. You don't have to let everybody know that, "Oh, we are working here, you are this, you are that, you've dined with so people." Keep your mouth shut. You don't have people, then you will actually know people's true intentions are. It's always good to keep your mouth shut. Always, always. Like sometimes you need to talk, but when you are going to a place for the first time, you don't have to, "Oh my God, oh, enter the room," and everybody's like, "Oh, who's this person?" Girl, you gotta get your life together. So that was what happened, and I was lucky I did not expose anything about me. And that's how I was able to save myself some bucks and not get cheated. Please, 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 please. You don't have you don't have to let the whole world know what you're doing. You don't have to you don't have you know you don't have to let people. Okay, yeah, this is like the delicate part in makeup, putting the liners. You don't want to make mistake. Good. So that was how keeping quiet, my lashes. So that was how keeping quiet and observing. Sometimes you go into a room, all you need to do is to observe, observe. Look at the people around you, observe what they are up to, observe everything before you open your mouth to speak. Then you get to know people's true intention. I cannot overly emphasize this. It's really, really important, especially living in the especially living in the country. Even outside the country, you have to really Keep quiet, observe, find out what people's true intentions are before you step in to speak. So I'm going to mascara my lashes. I'm using Fenty Beauty. You guys know how much I love Rihanna. So that is all, or that was all that happened to me on Saturday. And to be very honest, I've experienced this countless of time, even in the East and all, and it's not something that we Igbos should be proud of at all. It's not something we should be proud of. It's something that we should always, try to speak against. I know it's not only Igbo that indulge in this, but most Igbos are traders. So we should try as much as possible to. I'm not saying we all like people open business to make gains, right? People open business to make gains and they make the gains. You do not have to overly charge someone like times four, or I don't know, like it's weird. You're being wicked. There's no difference between you and the devil, to be honest. You don't have to, they call it being smart. I don't think that is being smart. It's being intentionally being like wicked, wicked and all, and it's not something that would always comment at all. Never. I always speak against it, and I will always continue to speak against it. I don't know how many times I've left word for him. I actually went with some of my colleagues, to buy things at Wuse Market, right? And they were speaking Igbo, the same thing. I don't know how stupid they can get thinking that, oh, like if they ask you, are you Igbo? If you ask me, am I Igbo? I already know what the next thing you like. You're trying to find out if I'm Igbo so that you know if you are going to deceive me or not. Right? So they are just so foolish, very foolish. So that was how I escaped being cheated. Glory be to God. Lashes are all fixed. Now we blend. So we have to be really careful with life, to be honest. It's not everybody or knows where I work or the things I do. Like you don't have to give yourself away to the world for them to know. It's okay for content creators, like you have to show people how these things are done and all, but man, sometimes you have to really, really hold yourself. You have to. You have to. You have to. You have to really hold yourself. Or else you're gonna lose yourself out there giving people information that they don't actually deserve to know about you. They don't. There's some information is just you and you alone deserve to know. You and you alone. And maybe a couple of friends that you can trust, right? It's not easy trusting people these days and all. I've heard a lot of people say things about friends and all, but man, never know. There's still good ones out there. And okay, my light went off. No, this is not happening. Oh boy. We all have to be very, very careful, extremely careful in life. I learned my lesson on Saturday. I know that some of you are going to be like, oh, it's a very small thing, it's something that happened I love the lip. Fenty Beauty Gloss. I love this gloss so much. It's so good. So I'm all dressed and I'm ready to go out. You already know, hair by Guinea Cap or nothing. So baby girl is looking all slayed up. Okay. You see how that face is Fentifying? Okay. The glow and everything is popping. So I got this top from my John Collins, but it's actually pretty little thin. She imports them, so instead of paying online and all, so I have to get them from her. She has affordable things, all London wears, ranging from Pretty Little Thing, Zara, Fashion Nova, name it, she has all of them. And this pants, I got it from Shop and Slay here in Abuja. And my shoes, I got them from Zara, from Budapest when I traveled last year. So you can see the baby girl is all slayed up.